Today I want to talk about 3 stocks that have been absolutely hammered over the past few days that some of you guys out there own. I want to explain why these particular stocks are down so much, okay? So one, we're going to talk about JD. It's kind of the most obvious going to the least obvious. Then we'll talk about Facebook. Then we'll talk about Alibaba last, okay? And kind of why these stocks continue to struggle out there. While this market's been pretty good lately, okay? We can't say, oh, the market's been trash, the market's been down huge. That's why these stocks are down. No, that's really not, okay? Because if we look at some stocks like Apple's up over 17% in the past 3 months. 17% in the past 3 months. Amazon's up over 17% in the last 3 months. So we've seen the 2 big dogs of the stock market, both of them have around $1 trillion market caps. Apple's over $1 trillion. Amazon hit $1 trillion yesterday. I think it's just slightly under right now. These 2 have been performing phenomenal, while these stocks, these other big ones, specifically, Facebook and Alibaba, have been struggling a lot. Now, I also want to just kind of mention Tencent, which is the other big company out of China. That's down about 26% in the past 3 months, okay? So Alibaba and them, what Apple and Amazon represent to the United States of America, Tencent and Alibaba represent that to China. They're the big dog companies over there, okay? So let's get into all these. If we look at JD, okay, on the 2-day chart, this one's down 16%. 16% in 2 trading days, guys. That's pretty rough, okay? Over the past 3 months, this one's down 35%. If we look at it for more of the 3-month span, a lot of that has to do with just the simple fact that the tariffs, the trade war, all this type of talk, it's just scared a lot of investors out of a lot of Chinese stocks. You could say for wrong or for right, maybe just people are clueless out there. They shouldn't be selling off these Chinese stocks, but for whatever reason, people have gotten scared. The stock market doesn't like uncertainty, and when you have uncertainty coming into the stock market and into particular sectors, like Chinese stocks in general, right, which have a lot of American money in it, when they see the trade war and all these tensions and tariffs and blah, 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 it scares people out of a lot of these stocks, okay? Which is why a stock like JD has been hurt, severely, like 35% in 3-month span. That is rough, man. That is a rough downward move there, okay? 16% in 2 days. Why is that? That's because of the CEO situation, okay? I spoke on this, it was like 2 or 3 days ago, all right? The gentleman, the CEO there, had been arrested. It could be completely false, okay? It could have been a completely mistaken identity. We don't know all the specifics around it as of right now. All we know is he's been released. From my understanding, he's back in China now. But at the end of the day, okay, and a lot of people are like, oh, this doesn't affect the company at all. You could somewhat be right on that, okay? But as I spoke about in that video, the worst thing for JD is any bad publicity out there, any type of bad press. This was already a stock that has been struggling a lot, okay? It's not like this is a stock that's up massively, that is performing phenomenally well. No, this is a stock that has been performing horribly, okay? And I pointed out in the, since this one went IPO, it was up, like 20% or 25% or something like that. Now you take away that 16%, it's even up less than that since the company IPO'd years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, okay? This one hasn't done much. So when I looked at JD, I just said, this is a company right now that it can't have any more bad press around it. And this whole situation, is just another black eye in this company's dealio, okay? Which is why this one has dropped another 16% in 2-day span. Last 48 hours, this one's down 16%, guys. That one's really rough. So that is why JD is down, okay? You have the trade tariffs, and then you have the CEO situation, and just boom, it's just a nasty stock right now, okay? We'll see where JD goes over time. You could make an argument that, they have a great opportunity in front of themselves the next 5 or 10 years, and although this is a company that really hasn't shown much profitability to this date, they may be able to be immensely profitable, 3, 4, 5 years out. But time remains to be seen there. Facebook stock, what has happened to Facebook? Why does this one continue to fall, okay? On the 3-month, it is down around 12%. It was down much more than that if you look at where it was at right before earnings and then where it crashed down to. But the 3-month chart is down around 12%. The 2-day chart is down 5%, another 5% just in the past 2 trading days, okay? What is going on with Facebook? Well, one was the earnings came out. The earnings came out and what that earnings period ended up doing is it took it from a stock that it was a growth stock, massive growth stock that, a lot of growth investors wanted to be in Facebook, to now it's a value investor stock, okay? And whenever you have this situation, it's never a good stock environment for that particular stock, okay? Because what you have is you have major growth investors who love the huge growth in a stock like this, which is Facebook had been showing massive growth across the board for years and years. Now all of a sudden, some of that growth growth has slowed. They're still expected to grow very nicely on profits, revenues for years to come in the future, okay? Never mind if you look at the Instagram metrics and some of that, okay? This should still grow phenomenally in the future, but right now, the growth investors are saying, we don't want to be in that anymore because it doesn't look like they're going to have that parabolic growth anymore. They don't have quite that story that gets everybody hyped out anymore. And so now people like myself have begun to step into stock over the past month and have started to buy shares, the value investors, okay? There just haven't been enough of us to buy shares in the short term here to push the stock up. There have been more growth investors selling out than value investors buying in, okay? Which is why a stock like this has fallen over 12% in the past 3 months. The 2-day chart's down over 5%. A lot of that honestly has to do with the fact that Trump has, begun to speak out against some of these big, powerful players in the ad market. Google, he believes that, some of them suppress conservative views. Facebook, a lot of these different platforms as far as that goes. So he's coming after them, and that's just more negativity there across the board, okay? So when you have this stock moving from growth investor stock to now value investor stock, that's a big change up. This happens to a lot of companies across the board, okay? I remember when Apple went through this. Apple was just putting up insane numbers for a long time, and then all of a sudden the numbers started slowing, and Apple stock had a rough time for a little while there, and then all of a sudden the value investor stepped in, and Apple's been in up and ups ever since, okay? But that's the deal with Facebook there. So if we can get the situation cleared up where Trump can stop attacking them, and Sessions came out and he's oh, what's going on here? Are you guys suppressing conservative views? Which could be true, and it does sometimes seem like that. I have no clue if it's factual or not, but it does seem like that sometimes. Until that's cleared up, it's just a kind of a dark cloud over it on top of slowing growth, which is still going to be phenomenal for years to come in the future, okay? So that's what's going on there with Facebook. Now let's talk about Alibaba, and you could group Tencent into this as well. Alibaba and Tencent, they kind of run together in positive times or negative times. They kind of, flow very similarly. But Alibaba, what's going on here with Alibaba, all right? And then I want to explain kind of what's going on, like there's an underlying thing that's going on right here that's making all these moves accelerate. I'll explain that in just a second, okay? But Alibaba, what's going on with this one? 21% down. This is very similar to JD. It's just had the whole negative tariffs, the trade war. Everybody's freaking out over that, okay? That's what's taking it down over the past few months. And the last 2 days, what has happened? Well, this one has unfortunately been brought down because of JD. Because of the JD situation, these stocks end up trading in baskets, okay? So what ends up happening is Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, JD, a lot of these different players, they all get basketed together as the big Chinese companies, all right? Meaning if one of them moves up in a huge weight, it actually lifts all the other Chinese stocks a little bit, okay? If one of them gets hurt in a massive weight, it actually brings down all the Chinese stocks. And what you have is JD having an awful time right now, down 16% in the last 48 hours. And this ends up sending down Tencent even more, sending down Alibaba because these stocks trade in baskets, okay? And it brings down everything across the board. So that is what has kind of happened here with Alibaba and Tencent there, all right? Now let's get into kind of the underlying thing that's going on in the stock market. And I see this all the time. I see this all the time in big tech. It's something I start to notice, and it's what I call rotation money. Rotation money is the term I've called it here, okay? And what this means is you have, certain stocks, huge tech stocks, all right? And what you'll have sometimes is hot money rotate out of certain stocks that aren't performing very well, and it makes their downside even bigger. And you have that money rotate to some of the stocks, the big tech stocks that are doing well, and that ends up pushing up those stock values even more and more. I've seen this over the years happen with Apple and Google's a ton of times, okay? Would also begin to get become a hot stock, and Apple would be selling off big time, and the move would just get bigger, and a lot of Apple money would rotate toward Google, and then all of a sudden Apple time would be coming, and all of a sudden money would rotate out of Google. It would exacerbate the down move with Google. It would make Apple's move upward bigger and bigger, okay? Which is exactly what we have seen here with Apple and Amazon. We've seen a lot of money rotating from Facebook, from a lot of these big Chinese names, Chinese tech names. We've seen a lot of money rotating out of those because those weren't winners. They aren't winners here in the short term. It makes their moves exacerbate to the downside, which you get bigger and bigger downward moves than what it really should be, and you end up getting bigger and bigger upside moves to some of the hot stocks, okay? It's rotation money moves, I call it. It happens in big tech all the time. One stock will start falling for whatever reason, bad earnings. An analyst came out and said something. By the way, an analyst came out and downgraded Facebook yesterday, okay? And that freaks everybody out. The stock ends up moving down, and then people, the big fund managers, I shouldn't just say people, big fund managers say, dude, I want to rotate some money out of some of these names to the ones that are hot right now, the ones that can't miss. Because a stock like Apple and Amazon, it's almost every day these stocks go up, okay? Like literally, I keep track of these every single day. One, because my wife has a huge position in Apple. Amazon, I keep track of even though we don't have a position in that, I just keep track of it to keep track of it. It's an interesting stock. And almost every single day, it seems like Apple and Amazon are up. They just move up and up and up and up. And it's like, how do these stocks keep going up? So money rotating out of a lot of the other big tech names into these two tech names. And sooner or later, guess what? The rotation is going to happen the other way, okay? We don't know when that will be, but sooner or later, all of a sudden money will start to rotate out of Apple, out of Amazon, and it will start to rotate back into some of these other tech names. Those will begin to get the hot names on them, okay? It happens constantly in big tech. I've seen it happen for years and years and years and years. It'll continue to happen in the future. That is why these stocks are down. I want to hear your guys' opinion on this down there in that comment section. Do you own any of these stocks mentioned? Do you own JD? Do you own Facebook? Do you own Alibaba? Do you own Apple, Amazon, Tencent, any of these stocks? I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. If you own any of these stocks mentioned here today, or if you're planning on buying any, if you already own a position, you want to load up more shares, like I would love to hear from you guys. Also, like if you had to put all your money for the next 10 years in any of these stocks mentioned, what stock would it be? I would love to hear from you guys in that comment section. If you enjoyed this video, hit a thumbs up if you learned a lot today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.